Turn to our next question, Mrs. Kane.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For a lot of people, our system of electing the Legislative Council isn't considered particularly democratic, and there's a lot of discussion over what the future might be. And you may have seen the recent Panorama documentary, which said the Isle of Man is not a democracy because government doesn't have an opposition. So I just wondered, why do you want to join this system when apparently the island is not a democracy?
Okay, we'll start this one with Mrs. Poole-Wilson.
I think I would take issue with the island not being a democracy. I think you've raised the point about the process of how members are elected to the Legislative Council. I think probably there may have been some perception and concern in the past, particularly that people couldn't quite see the basis on which people may have been elected into the Legislative Council. I think this process that we're undertaking today, the very fact it's being filmed, it will be available to the public in due course. The voting process on March the 12th, again, it will be open. Members of the House of Keys will be accountable for how they exercise their votes. So I understand that people may not agree necessarily with an indirectly elected Legislative Council, but I think the process we now have to demonstrate how those elections are happening is more robust. In terms of our overall democracy, I think actually we are, MHKs are incredibly close to the people who elect them, closer than many MPs and most MPs in the United Kingdom, because you have much smaller constituencies, the ability for your constituents to be in touch with you and to engage with you is very, very strong. And I think our system where we don't have parties actually serves us well, or we do have parties, sorry, but we don't operate a fully party political system. But I think it serves us well. I think it helps us to build consensus, to be able to be persuaded by the evidence, I would say, on particular issues, and then to cast your vote, pursue the route forward based on an evidence basis, which again can be accountable back to the people.
Mrs. Chambers.
Yes, I agree with a lot of what James just said. I do think that on the Isle of Man, our politicians are very close to the public, and certainly in the job I do, it's very easy to contact somebody within a department and get help and advice and support, and so I've always found that to be the case, and hope it would continue. I do think for the nominations for Legco and within the Lisbon report, there was a suggestion that a nominations committee might be something that would be brought in at some stage, and having been through this process over the last few weeks, I think that might be worth considering. It might lessen the burden on the MHKs from their role if there was a first round of nominations beforehand that brought forward candidates with real promise from so many different areas of life, which I feel to be essential.
Thank you. Councillor Skinner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You will have noticed that all throughout that BBC programme, at the end of virtually every sentence, the phrase was used, but this is not illegal. So we are living in a world of legal. I believe we do live in a democratic system, or we do have a democratic system, and I believe that the people that you represent have put their trust in you to elect the right people for Legislative Council. So yes, I believe that we do have a proper democratic system. Thank you.
Mr. Ramsay.
Yes, the Panorama programme was extremely shoddy journalism, and it's also very irritating when members of the metropolitan elite look at a system of democracy that's different from theirs, and they don't recognise it, and they assume that you're not democratic because we haven't got an opposition. I think one of the best definitions of democracy is where the public and the people have the ability to remove or change the government, and that happens in the Isle of Man. I think this government we've got now is quite different, certainly in terms of emphasis and tone, from its predecessor. So if we think that the public are able to remove or change the government in the Isle of Man, then yes, we're a democracy.
Thank you. Mrs. Hendy.
I too watched that programme with my family, and to say we were laughing, I mean, it was terrible journalism, and with people whispering and going past buildings at night as if some skullduggery and the mafia were coming out at you. It was really not worth thinking about. The system that we live within, I think our democracy is robust. I think it probably is a very good example of a democratic system in the Western Hemisphere at least. The process where you are elected, you have the public mandate. That is so unique to be able to elect your choice. We are here, and there's another batch on Friday, but the choice is yours. It's your democratic choice to put in place those who you think are going to serve your role and the role of and the citizens of the Isle of Man. So I think that process, I think, is actually quite sound, and it also enables LegCo to take a global view rather than a constituency view. So I think the process that's in place now, although it's under scrutiny still, I think it's actually a rather good system, but I do sense a change of dynamic within this House, which is to be welcomed, and I think the process that's been renewed and the job description going out there, I think that's what's resulted in so many of us being before you, and I think that's very refreshing. Whoever gets in, I think it's a great process. Thank you.
Mr. Hardy.
I personally think the system that we have in place at this minute in time is more democratic. I think you've got, obviously, the parties in place, but you also have a considerable number of independents. So fundamentally, these people are elected by the people that they represent. So they are there for a reason, that the public have deemed that these people are worthy of having the power to represent them. So fundamentally, I think that gives you a strong position, and I think that it's almost a strength, because you have the ability to change things quickly. You have the ability to have more impact because you're not tied to a party, and I understand party politics are important, but fundamentally you've got a disparate group of people who are all in power, who've been elected in that role, who fundamentally are working towards the best thing for the island. I think from an MLC's position and us being voted by yourselves, obviously that's potentially, I think you understand the way the government works, you know what you're looking for, you understand the role that MLCs have to fulfil. So fundamentally it should be you people that choose who is right for the role, and I think that's entirely democratic.
Thank you. Mr. Cartledge.
Thank you. I agree. I do believe that we live and have very much live in and very much have a democratic government. I think the evidence of that is clear when everyone is available to anyone that wishes to come and see them, be it business, be it individual. I think the elections proved with a 50% change in the members standing, and the number of people now standing in for LegCo, the number of nominations, the diversity. As has been said, you are the ones that will elect members of LegCo, and you have been elected yourself. There's an openness and transparency now about these elections. We're covered very much by the press. I'm totally surprised how many people have actually said to me, "Oh, I didn't know you were standing," or "Congratulations," or "Wishing me good luck." So I think that proves the democratic process that we have. Can it be changed? Can it be improved? Without a shadow of a doubt. And I have no issues with that. I'm not averse to being in Turkey and voting for Christmas if that's the will of the democracy.
And Mrs. Sharpe.
Well, I think just because the Isle of Man doesn't have opposing parties doesn't mean that we don't live in a democracy. I mean, every act that is passed in the House of Keys is voted on. I think that the system we have on the Isle of Man is useful because it means that members aren't tied to one particular party's point of view. So there's always the chance that members can listen to the arguments that are put in front of them and use their own common sense to make the best decisions. In terms of LegCo, if voting for the Legislative Council was thrown open to the public, there's always a chance that the public could return 8 lawyers, for example. And I think that, not that there's anything wrong with lawyers, Jane, but what we need, it's true, a diversity in the Legislative Council. And so the way that it's working at the moment, where MHKs choose who are going to work best together as a team, has to be the best way forward. Having said that, I think possibly the suggestions that were put forward in the Lisbane report, that perhaps there could be a nominations panel which could choose candidates for Legislative Council, I think that could be worth looking at for sure.